Hey you guys, it's Peter! And I'm back. Of course I'm back. Not going anywhere. Today is a story time reaction. It's a story time of my own kind of stories, but it's a story time reaction too, okay? And I'm gonna get to that in just a second. But I have recently been doing a lot of story times on my channel. A lot of viewers have been asking for them. They think that they're very funny. I don't necessarily think they're so funny. I just think that Peter Monn has no business being out in public because I don't know how to act correctly. And I seem to attract weirdos wherever I go. If you've watched my story times, you'll know, like the one I did yesterday about being in a post office, that I just kind of attract characters in my life. I don't know if it's because I'm an author. I don't know if it's because I just love interesting people. I don't know if it's because I love having eccentric, unique people in my life that I am just bestowed upon with these characters of fools everywhere. But I love it. I love every bit of it. I think people are interesting, and I love finding out more and more about people, okay? So I was thinking today about doing a story time, and I really it's really hard when people are like, do more story times, and you're like, okay, I don't know. And like I could be sitting at dinner with a friend of mine and I have 50 stories to tell, right? But then like put the camera in front of me and I'm like, what should I do a story time about, right? So I just searched on YouTube story times, and I've done this the last couple weeks, you know, just looking up story times. And one thing has quickly become apparent to me, okay, is that the YouTuber, Miss Tana Mojo, do y'all know Tana Mojo? She is almost 19 years old, and she is a YouTuber of mucho fame that does these extravagant story times, okay? To compare it to something of pop culture, she's a bit like the Kelly Martin of Lifetime or the Tori Spelling of Lifetime when it comes to story times. Let's just put it that way. She has more story times than anybody I have ever seen in my entire life on YouTube, okay? This girl's story times, the majority of them are either about stalkers or Uber drivers. I, if I were her, would probably never get in an Uber as long as I lived again, because she, I think, has 5 or 6 videos out exclusively about horrific experiences that she's had with Uber drivers. So Tana, my own personal 2 cents is, sweetheart, you might want to change over to Lyft instead of Uber, or hire a driver with all the millions of dollars that you're making at this point, because you have no business getting into an Uber at this point. But that's beside the point. I'm saying that kind of in jest. So I was watching her videos, and you know, her videos always have these huge titles on them, right? Like, I was stalked by my Uber driver, or, you know, like, my stalker story, or the first time I smoked weed, or the first time I got blackout drunk. And that one caught my eye. And I'll tell you why. If you don't know what you don't know, it's a lot. I've talked extensively about it on my channel. Is that I got sober when I was 22 years old. I'm 44. I've been sober for 22 years. And I started drinking when I was 12 years old, regularly drinking when I was 12 years old. And I have worked in the field of addiction for the majority of my life. And I have worked with teenagers in the field of addiction for 15 of those 20 years that I worked in the field. So I thought, okay, I want to see this video. And the reason why I wanted to see it, and I have to tell you that I did something that I can't stand that a lot of viewers do, all right? And that is that I went in with an assumption before I watched the video. Like, a lot of people comment on my videos because I put clickbaity titles like hell all over the place. I own it, I know it, right? I mean, everybody does that, come on. But I do, and then people leave comments and they don't really watch the video, so they don't really know what I'm gonna say, and they just comment on it, okay? And I'm like, could you watch the video and then comment on it? So I already was getting fired up. I was like, oh, what's old Tana gonna say about this now? But I was like, okay, Peter, give her the benefit of the doubt, watch her video, whatever. This is the thing about Tana, and I've talked about this in other videos, okay? Tana is a YouTuber with millions of subscribers. All of her story times get like 2.5 million views, all right? And the thing that concerned me the most about this video is not how many views it had. I mean, I think the girl, if she can tell a story, I don't personally get why people are so interested in her stories. But I mean, like, her stories are not that like, oh, or what? I mean, they're just stories. I mean, they're not like even that great, okay? But so I don't really get it. But what was more disturbing to me than that was that, and I'm not dogging her. Girl's got her gig. It's working for her. Have at it, okay? But she got 83,000 likes on this video. That means 83,000 people watched this video and were like, yes, totally. I was like, what? I don't know what I think about all that. So anyway, so I went into this video and I was like, okay, give Tana the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what she has to say. Because I thought, well, maybe there's some moral lesson to all of this that we'll learn from. And oh God, I wish I knew at 19 what I know now. That's just a small piece of this, but I know I'm the old man of YouTube. But so anyway, I watched this video, and at the beginning of it, she does give like this warning, and she says, you know, it's don't drink and drive, and you know, like don't drink other things that people have handed you. I mean, she gives all the warnings, and hey, I think that's great because, you know, she could have just done the story time and not said any of that kind of stuff. So hey, listen, props to Tana for doing that. You know, it is what it is, and she looked pretty in the whole video and all that kind of stuff. But she goes in and she talks about how, you know, first of all, I'm not big on bullshit. So I have to say, I really respect the fact that she was honest in the video, okay? And she talks about how, like, all her friends were drinking and she wanted to wait until the summer after she was in 8th grade to drink. And, you know, we know in the addictions field that the age of onset is between 6th and 8th grade. So that's accurate. And for me, I was 12 years old the first time that I got drunk, and I was in the, what do you call it? The playground of Mohawk Trails Elementary School with 3 of my friends, and I swang, and those 3 puked, and I just swang and looked at the moon and thought, this is the most amazing thing in the entire world. I can't wait to do it again. If you had that kind of feeling, you probably are an alcoholic. I'm just going to tell you now. I didn't know that then. I didn't know that wanting to chase that feeling of swinging, I felt glorious. It was amazing. God, I'm still chasing that. No, because I don't drink anymore. But, so she talks about how that had been her plan, and she had this friend of hers who she talks about in the video, and her friend's parents were like, it's cool if you drink here as long as you don't drive home. And she even says in there, she's like, you know, I look back on that now and I think, like, what kind of parents are those that would do that? But then she quickly takes it back and says, but they didn't let anybody drink and drive. And I'm like, you were in 8th grade. You couldn't drive even if you wanted to, you know? I mean, unless you, like, stole somebody's car. What? So anyway, so she goes in there and she tells the story. And then the story gets very funny, and she's at a party. And one of the warnings that she says is don't drink at house parties, drink in small intimate settings at home. Like what, in 8th grade you have a glass of wine with your girlfriend? I mean, what? People drink at house parties. That's what they do at that age, right? And she talks about having a crush on this boy and whatever. Go watch the video. I'll even link it below and you guys can go check it out. It's not a bad video, right? But what's concerning to me is this, is that she turns this video into what could have been a very teachable lesson into something that becomes very funny, these consequences that happen. And the one thing that she doesn't really ever talk in there is that she doesn't get blackout drunk. Now, as an alcoholic who blackout drank, what that means, okay, to pass out means that you drink and drink and drink and then you just go to sleep, okay? To blackout drink means you drink and drink and drink, and the next day, there are pieces of that night that you don't remember, okay? It's very, very scary when things happen to people because they're not making choices of the right mind. They're blacking out. They're not remembering, how did I get here? How did I get there? What happened? Why am I in this bedroom all of a sudden? Did I leave the party? How did I get on this road walking home? It's terrifying, okay? So for 83,000 people to thumbs up this video, to say like, oh, I relate to that, or hey, that's funny, or whatever, is concerning to me, okay? Because I think the majority of the people that are watching Tana's videos are between the ages of, let's say, 6th and 8th grade, all the way to seniors in high school. So that group are the ones in there going, yeah, this is great. And what I'm telling you is, if you're one of those people, I can understand how that might seem fun to you when you haven't done that. For me, it ended up being pure hell. And from the get-go, if my video that I put out was the first time I blackout drank, because she talks about that being the first time that she drank. Now, the first time that I drank, I did not blackout drink, okay? But quickly after that, when I was drinking in my bedroom by myself on a daily basis, I was blacking out on a daily basis. I remember much of that period of my life from when I was drinking, because I was drinking all the time when I was at home by myself. Now, if I was out with my friends, I wasn't always doing those things, so it didn't happen, right? But the fact that a 13, 14, and 15-year-old was blackout drinking on a regular basis is pretty terrifying. The other thing is that when I got a little bit older and I could go to parties with people that were older, and I'm talking about in their 20s, when I was much too young to be doing those things, I got myself in a lot of situations that I don't really remember how I got myself into. I found myself in a lot of situations that I would never have ended up in had I not been a blackout drinker, okay? What's really scary about all of this to me is if you are somebody that relates to blackout drinking, what you'll know is you get to the point where you get really tired of people telling you things. Like I got to the point where when people would say to me the next day, you know, like, oh my God, you know what you did last night? You know, you were doing this or you, and I'd be like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know because I wasn't going to stop drinking. Okay. The drinking to me was too much fun. Even though it got worse and worse over time, I still was enjoying it. I could not imagine my life without drinking. I couldn't have imagined having a high school experience without drinking, to be honest with you. Right. And you know, what's really scary is I was willing to suffer the consequences so that I could continue to drink. And my drinking was different than everybody else's. I wish the one message that she would have put in her video, which it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a bad video, but I wish she would have said, if you're somebody that is blackout drinking, if you're somebody that can't put the drink down, seek out some help. It's only going to get worse for you. You're gonna wake up in situations, and listen, I don't believe that any situation like a rape or like violent situation or anything like that, I don't believe that anybody in a blackout or not a blackout deserves that to happen. I just don't, okay? I think that when we say to people, well, had you not been that drunk, that wouldn't have happened, I think that's some horrible horseshit, I was gonna say. I think that's some horrible bullshit to put on somebody to say that because of that choice, you deserve that to happen. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. And I feel for each and every young lady and young man out there that has had those situations happen to them. But the reality is this, is if you are blackout drinking on a regular basis, sooner or later, you are gonna find yourself in a situation that you can't get yourself out of. Sooner or later, you're gonna remember bits and pieces of a horrible night that you had the night before. I did. I remember to this day bits and pieces of horrible nights that I had, of things that I don't even really remember who the people were, how the night turned out, how I found myself home, or how I ended up passed out in my car. I just don't remember. And that's really scary to me, you know? And there's a saying that more will be revealed, but over 22 years of sobriety, there's a lot that has never been revealed to me. So this whole idea of binge drinking, doing shots to the point of blackout drinking is terrifying to me. And if you're somebody out there that struggles with that, if you're a teenager out there that wants to keep up with your friends, but you know you just can't and you're not remembering things the next day, you're probably not somebody that can drink successfully. The other thing I think is important to know is that blackout drinking typically is genetic. If you have parents of yours that are alcoholics, that are in recovery or they're not in recovery, or grandparents or aunts and uncles, you have a genetic predisposition for addiction. And what that means is if they're blackout drinking, chances are you will too. One of the scariest things that I ever heard when I worked with teenagers was teenagers that thought it was fun to blackout drink. Okay? I never thought it was fun. I thought it was scary as shit, and I thought it was annoying. I didn't want to deal with it when people would tell me the next day, like, oh my God, do you remember last night? And I never remembered the night before, and I would just play it off like, oh yeah, I totally remember what happened. And the reality was I didn't remember at all. And that was really, really scary to me, and I didn't like that, you know? So when I started hearing teenagers say, I like to blackout drink, what that meant was they liked being numb. They liked not knowing what was going on. They thought it was fun to be reckless, okay? And when we get to that point, we don't care about ourselves anymore, and that's a really dangerous place to be. And towards the end of my career of drinking, I never would have said that it was fun to black out, but I didn't care if I did. I just let it happen. I remember the first time that I ever blackout drank. I was actually at my father's house, and he was out of town for the weekend, and I had stolen some alcohol from his liquor cabinet, of which I did on a regular basis. I drank hard liquor. I loved hard liquor. I didn't drink beer and wine. I always drank hard liquor when I was in high school. I loved it, right? And I had a waterbed, and I kept these seltzer bottles full, waterbeds. Do anybody have waterbeds anymore? And I kept these seltzer bottles full of hard liquor on each corner of the waterbed because I could cover it up and nobody would see it if my dad searched my room, which he never did anyway. And I was drinking and watching movies. And the house that I grew up in at my dad's house had a pool. And he also lived on the lake. And I remembered from that night going down the stairs, going up the stairs, going down the stairs, going up the stairs, getting more alcohol out of the liquor cabinet. All I know is that the next day that I woke up on a towel next to the pool, completely naked. I was 15 years old. I could have drowned. I could have ended up dead. And I can tell you what I thought that next day was. I want to get drunk again. I want to get drunk again and watch movies and go up and down. At that point, the whole idea of ending up on the side of a pool completely naked, that I could have just been like dead in the, I don't know how I laid out that towel next to the pool. I don't know why I thought that was a good place to fall asleep. I don't know how I didn't roll in. I must have gone swimming. I don't know anything about that night. I will never know anything about that night, and that's terrifying to me, and that's what a blackout drinker is. And I am so thankful today that I'm sober, and I don't have to remember what happened the night before, or have somebody tell me it, or try to read through a journal chicken scratch of where I had written down the night before what happened. I don't ever want to live like that to me anymore, and that's not a funny story, and it will never be a funny story to hear on any kind of video, in any kind of book, or any kind of movie. So anyway, I hope you guys got something from that video. I know you're probably hoping for a more funny story time, but sometimes I think it's important to tell stories that we learn from. So I love you so much. You know I do daily content on my videos, so come back for more, and I'm super active in my social media, so follow me on everything. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.